As you can see here on the elevations, you have enabled already colored and shadows, I mean on the 3D views, right? But there's a way to create 3D views that are rendered and not just vectorial views. Vectorial works for some kind of things, but because of the kind of work that you have created in SketchUp, you may want to look for a different kind of feeling. Um, so we're gonna go to the first floor. I don't know if you're familiar with cameras, but that's the way I work to create the 3D views. I just find it easier. I have more control than what I have. So I just created a camera with camera tool. I'm just gonna make sure that everything is inside of the lens view. And you can see that by looking at these lines and making sure that your model is completely in between the two red lines here, and you can always come and adjust whatever perspective. Once you have your camera set, that is added on your project map. So I'm going to open the camera view right here, and if you like this, you can keep it. If not, you can always turn the 3D navigation. And like for this, one of the things that I do usually is kind of elevate my viewpoint. You can, press and shift. You can, spacebar. You can raise your point of view. Press and C. You can bring it down. I kind of like to keep it down to, I don't know, it gives a different feeling. Now it gets distorted. So what I do is usually put the viewpoint like this, and then you can enable 2-point perspective, and that fixes the distortion. That kind of gives, bringing your viewpoint lower gives the perspective lines a little bit more of drama. You could use that word. So once you have the viewport the way you want it, you can just right click on the camera and say modify this camera to current view, and it's going to keep it. So I use the camera, setting the camera in the floor plan as a starting point, but then on the camera itself, I navigate a little bit to kind of tweak the view to the way I want it. So once you have the camera, you have that view already set, you can add that to your project. I'm just going to bring here, now come to the organizer. So I have here model, project map, view map. On your, I saw you had some 3D views, well, renderings. I'm just going to open here. Now I'm going to drag the camera here. And so I have a camera already set. I saw that you have custom layers for some cameras and stuff like that. I usually create a 3D layer combination where I turn everything on because I don't want to be missing stuff on my camera view. So let's just open layers here. So I create a 3D view and everything's on. You can turn on and off whatever you need. I don't know what you want to see or not see. I just turned everything on because I saw that some roofs were missing and stuff like that. So it's always useful to have the layer set, the layer combination, for whatever view you're going to have. So my camera view is already set to 3D, So here on the camera view, view settings. Sorry, I'm gonna sip on my coffee here. So these are the settings that we're gonna worry about here. We already have the layer combinations, the general view settings, but then we have here some more settings that we can enable. You already have used the 3D window settings, so you pretty much know the benefits and limitations of using the 3D window. I'm gonna show you something else that you can do with, on the 3D window, but for now we're gonna change it to photo rendering. And then on photo rendering, we're gonna use oh, this is for 3D style, I'm sorry. We're gonna use a kind of rendering, rendering settings. There are some enabled already, but you can always bring some more. So I'm just gonna go here to select scene, and that brings some predefined rendering settings, and you will find here that you have indoor scenes, and you have outdoor scenes, and from outdoor you're gonna have blue night, daylight, dusk. For automatic documents for 3D views, I would use daylight and fast. That's not gonna, because every time that you update your layouts and stuff like that, obviously you set this view to manual, but at some point you're gonna want to refresh that view. So you don't want it to take a long time rendering, because this is not like a high-end rendering. It's just a 3D view that is gonna be rendered. So the one that I usually use is outdoor daylight fast. If you want a little bit more quality, you can always bring medium, but fast would be a good starting point. So once you bring those settings, then you need to set the size of the file. For now, we're gonna leave it 1680 to 150, and we're gonna click OK. There was a little glitch there. Okay, so that's pretty much what we have. I'm just gonna check here. So that's pretty much the view. So whenever you click, I'm not gonna save this, but whenever you click on that camera on the view map, it's gonna have that, it's gonna open the rendering. That's different from going to the camera on the project map. This is going to enable just the camera, but if I click here on the rendering, on the view map in renderings, to that camera, it's going to open the render. It's going to create the render automatically. So what it does at the same time is that enables, just going to delete this render, enables to have the render available to bring into your layouts. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go here to the layouts. I'm just gonna go here through the 3D views, and I'm just gonna drag in here from 3D views my camera view into your layout. And like I mentioned, the first time you put it in is gonna render the scene. So you're gonna have to wait a little bit for it to add the view. Obviously, you want to change that to a manual setting after you put it the first time, and just update them manually when you're about to publish, and that that some changes have been made. Otherwise, it's going to be rendering every time you publish. Okay, so that's the view that we get. Having some performance issues with my computer, but you can always snap. You can go to the settings. If you want to, you can scale it up, to 100%, or you can change the resolution. We're gonna go there in a minute to kind of show you a little bit more about that, and we're gonna change the update to manual. So if you do that, you're going to have a rendering that you can have on your views that is not going to be updating automatically. But again, this is, I'm assuming, a little bit better than what you were having here. This is probably the look that you want to go for. Now you can change this, and we're going to go there to kind of show you how that works. So we're going to go here to the camera. Actually, no, let's go to the camera on the project map. So here, I'm going to show you some settings about rendering that you may be interested in. One of the things is probably I noticed that you did not have some preset renderings. I believe you probably played a little bit with them, and that can be confusing. Hitting render and not knowing what you're going to get. So as I mentioned before, you have some preset ones. You can always manage more. Another setting that I like as well is the dusk. We're going to select dusk fast here on the rendering settings. So once I select it, it's going to be enabled for my scene. There you go. And these already have, pretty much everything you need turned on. The next one would be probably resolution. You might want to increase your resolution. Obviously, this increases render time, but you know, if you want to have a larger image on your layout and not having to scale the way I did it right now, so it's not pixelated, you know, you might want to increase your resolution. Once I have a ratio that I like on this one here, you know, I have 1680 by 1050. You can turn on, you know, the render save frame. That's gonna show you, you know, the shape of the image. Once you have it or you like it, you can just increase the resolution here. You know, you can 300, and it's gonna increase accordingly without changing the frame. If you don't do that, every time you change a setting here, it's gonna change, you know, the frame, and that might get confusing. So I'm just gonna go here again to my standard setting to recover the ratio, and just lock this, you know, setting here. Now, you don't have to render the whole scene to know how it's going to look. As you saw, you know, we changed this to dusk. So I'm just going to click here in the image, and it's going to create a preview for you. That is very useful because sometimes you hit render, and it takes a while to know how it's going to look like. I'm already liking this one better probably than the daylight. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit click render here. Okay, so I don't think I have the sun here, and one thing that you will notice is that when you change the settings, it changes the time. So this is going to change according to what you have. You know, you can see here that it as you change the time, the sun is going to move accordingly. So I'm going to create dusk, but let's create in the morning and see how that works. Instead of evening. Now the sun is on the other side, so you might want to play with that a little bit and see how you want it. You know, set the north right and keep your settings right. So so that's it. So I'm just gonna go here. Camera, is that setting saved? Oh, I always forget that. So I'm just going to go to camera here, view settings. I'm going to change now to dusk, fast. I'm going to change the resolution here to, well, I'm just going to leave it the same. What I'm going to show you is that once you go to the 3D view, if you click on the view, you update it, it's going to re-render the view with the settings that you have. So here it is. The render is complete. I didn't save those settings, but so that's one of the things that you may want to do. You know, kind of play with the sun, the shadows, and stuff like that. The north, I don't know if the north is set correctly for this project. I noticed that the views are, you know, north on the top one, south on the bottom one. And that's usually the standard, unless by coincidence, you know, this happened to be the orientation for this specific project. So yeah, that's how you change those views. I hope this helps.